October 25, 1944, or 6:43 hours, Philippine Sea, east of Samar. A low ceiling hangs over 6 thin-deck carriers in a ragged line abreast, white wakes feathering behind them like brush strokes on gray silk. On the wind-swept flight deck of USS Fanshawe Bay CVE-70, ordnance men slam 5-inch HVAR rockets into stub racks beneath FM-2 Wildcats, while farther aft a TBM-1C Avenger hunches like a muscled beetle, torpedo shackled in grease-dark cradles. The loudspeakers bark, "General quarters, general quarters," as the carrier's island swallows the voice and lets it spill over the deck edge. Somewhere beyond the rain squalls, a lookout has glimpsed black shapes where no black shapes should be. You can taste the metal of it, salt, fuel vapor, a thread of cordite from last night's test fires. A young plane captain in a stained chambray shirt touches the cowling of his Wildcat as if it were a horse that needs calming. "Easy, girl," he mutters, from the open bridge above. Rear Admiral Clifton A.F. Ziggy Sprague raises his binoculars and finds them, stacked pagodas of superstructures, slashing bow waves, and a rising forest of masts. Battleships and heavy cruisers, too many to count at a glance, surging out of the murk. Kurita's center force, Yamato out there somewhere, and with her Nagato, Kongo, Haruna, Chikuma, Tone. Iron that belongs on headlines, not suddenly on your horizon. "Launch, launch, launch!" Sprague's voice goes out over Taffy 3, and the little carriers begin to spit airplanes into the wet morning. The first Wildcat claws at the sky, wingtips twitching in gusts, then steadies and disappears into rain. Behind it, Avengers throttle forward, tail wheels wagging on the slick deck. Torpedo men hunched under headphones, clicking safety levers they can't afford to forget later. There is no time to gather into perfect squadrons. There is barely time to arm. Pilots take off with whatever is bolted under their wings. 2 rockets, a half-dozen 100-pounders, a Mark 13 torpedo with a skittish reputation, because seconds matter more than loadouts. Over the water, a pilot glances left and sees destroyers already turning to charge. USS Johnston, DD-557, Ernest E. Evans on the bridge, Cherokee Kansas blood, and a voice like a cleaver, throws her helm over and lunges into a curtain of rain that cannot hope to hide her. USS Hole, DD-533 follows, and USS Heermann, DD-532, who runs with them, a pack of lean dogs snapping at a pride of lions because the house is on fire and someone has to grab the children. Smaller figures, destroyer escorts, and their thin ribs heel over too. Somewhere on Samuel B. Roberts, DE-413, men are tying down coffee cups that will never be drunk. The first Japanese salvos walk across the sea, vast white plumes punching upward like the fists of giants. Fanshawe Bay staggers in her own wake as columns of water straddle her. And over on USS Gambier Bay CVE-73, a crewman flinches at a geyser that seems to materialize on the port quarter, raining green water across the flight deck. Over it all, the high, insect whine of incoming shells builds into a chorus you can feel through your teeth. To port and starboard, the other CVEs, Kalinan Bay, CVE-68, White Plains, CVE-66, Kitkun Bay, CVE-71, St. Lo, CVE-63, accelerate until their engines sound like something is about to break loose inside. In the air now, a knot of Wildcat pilots finds altitude and stretches into a ragged combat spread. They are supposed to be fighter cover. Today, they are everything. The lead FM-2, its cowl patched duller than the rest, toggles the radio. Tally multiple cruisers bearing red 015, commencing harassment. Harassment, a word that means you only have rockets and guts. He thumbs the rails and watches 2 streaks fall away, white smoke scribbling a line toward a cruiser's bow. They impact low, splinters peel from the hull, and that is enough to make the big guns flinch a fraction and the helmsman correct a degree. In a battle measured in heartbeats, a degree is a mile. Low and fast come the Avengers. A crewman in the belly glass of 1 TBM can see sailors on the enemy's weather deck, tiny as tin figures. The pilot, a lieutenant, JG, with grease under his nails and a picture of his wife taped to the instrument panel, pushes the nose in and feels the airplane gather speed. The torpedo shutter is a living animal beneath them, eager, traitorous. At 120 knots, he dares not blink. At 110, he can read the numerals on the enemy rangefinders. At 100, the water ahead is a quilt of shell splashes. He thumbs the release, feels the torpedo drop, and the Avenger leap upward. "Fish away! Fish away!" The radio man chants bearings, corrections, prayers. Behind them, the white streak of a Mark 13 slides into the green and runs straight. Down on Johnston's bridge, Evans does arithmetic with lives. "Stand by to make smoke," he roars, and along the destroyer's length, a bank of chemical smoke generators coughs into dense, rolling gray. Johnston vanishes into her own weather, pops out, vanishes again, working closer, always closer, like a knife that keeps appearing in different parts of the room. "Torpedoes, stand by, fire!" 8 tubes belch and spit silver fish into a sea already boiling with impact crowns. A cruiser staggers under a hit, the timing of her salvo compromised. Another shears off, buying the carriers a breath more morning. Back aboard the baby carriers, the mockery that once greeted them in war rooms and ocean away. Too slow, too small, little jeep decks. Feels obscene. Every 30 seconds, a new Wildcat leaps into gray. Every minute, an Avenger thunders down the deck, and the LSO's paddles flash. The pilots know the arithmetic too. If they leave, the guns will walk their way up the wakes until there is nothing left to run from. So they stay low, throw rockets, strafe optics, drop 100-pounders on the flat roofs of turrets, anything to make a helmsman hesitate, a gunnery officer squint through smoke and rain and salt-spattered glass. Aboard Kalinin Bay, the aft 5-inch opens up, crewmen shouting over the clatter of 50-caliber mounts that hammer until the barrels glow. A great shape looms in fog, cruiser crossing astern, and the little gun barks and barks. And maybe it's impossible for such a toy to matter, but the cruiser swings, and its shells fall astern, and the carrier lives another minute. On Gambier Bay, the luck runs thinner. Shells stitch the water, then the hull, then the deck. She begins to slow, her bow digging into chop as the engine rooms die by compartments. Men heave ammunition overboard to lighten her. When she finally stops, she leans into the sea, as if laying her head down after too long a night. Overhead, the weather smears into one color, steel. The enemy fleet seems to multiply in it. And yet, somewhere in that gray, the arithmetic is changing. October 25th, 1944, 7:58 hours off Samar. The ocean is now a ledger of costs. Gambier Bay staggers, then staggers again. Her 5-inch mount keeps talking to the horizon as if words can rearrange fate. On Fanshawe Bay's bridge, Sprague listens to reports that pile up like loose gear in a gale. Johnston heavily engaged. Hole closing to attack. Heermann making smoke. He nods once and gives an order that sounds like the opposite of everything men are taught about carriers. Keep bearing east. Open the range. Launch, launch, launch. Launch has become a creed. Avengers depart half-fueled. Wildcats bite the wind with only machine guns. A pilot makes a second pass with nothing under his wings but courage, skimming so low over a cruiser's bow that his slipstream slaps the forecastle flags into snapping attention. He rakes the bridge with 50 caliber and sees men scatter, some falling, some not. When he pulls up, a shell stack flashes below him, and a pressure wave slaps the Wildcat so hard he tastes copper. Below these duels of inches, the destroyers are writing a separate script. Johnston slides through smoke and rain, reappears, takes a hit. Another, plumes of rust and paint lick from her hull where armor never existed. Ernest Evans keeps her bow up like a boxer who knows only one way out is forward. Hard left rudder. Torpedoes already gone. She fires 5-inch at housings so distant they seem like toys. The gunnery officer calls corrections like an auctioneer. Up 200, right 100. On. Observers swear later that Johnston's salvos chisel at a cruiser's command deck until the glass and metal and men become one tumbling illness. Hoole surges into her own fate, taking shells that punch through bulkheads as if they were chalk drawings. Engine room answering, comes the voice from below, and it is so steady that men on the bridge fall a little in love with it. Heermann, last healthy of the three, darts in and out of smoke and rain like a terrier around draft horse's legs, its helmsman throwing the wheel with the impudence of youth. A Japanese heavy cruiser turns a fraction late, a shell misses by the distance of a good dive, and for a handful of seconds, the destroyer lives in a pocket of perfect air where no one can quite touch her. Then the sky changes. Tiny black dots, first one then a scatter, resolve into Wildcats and Avengers returning in loose, predatory strings. They do not come alone. Some bring 5-inch HVRs and 250-pounders scrounged from ready lockers. Others bring something heavier, anger sharpened by helplessness. One Avenger, torpedoless now, carries depth charges and an idea. The pilot rolls in toward a cruiser's bow, thumbs the release so the canisters splash just ahead of the stem, detonating in great white boils of concussion that rattle the ship's forward directors. Not a textbook tactic exactly, just the library of necessity writing new pages. On White Plains, a gun captain with oil in his eyelashes keeps his men firing. Range, 10,000, 9,500, 9,000. The 5-inch mount bucks as its crew throws shells that weigh like small children. Someone laughs high and crazed every time a splash blooms close to a cruiser's waterline. You see that? You see that? It becomes a chant, a way to suspend disbelief. The cruiser turns again. How many turns can one helmsman make in an hour? And gun arcs break, and the straddle is lost, and an American crew cheers as if they have thrown back a storm with the force of their throats. A gray aircraft flashes low, Japanese, spitting tracers across the deck. A loader crumples beside his stack, and the man behind him steps forward without thought, one hand hauling the next shell, the other clapping twice against the breech before the train of muscle memory pulls him into rhythm. On Kalinin Bay, splinters of deckwood erupt in rooster tails. A hit aft sours the air with cordite and something metallic, a taste like blood. Still the little gun pumps, barrels darkening, water cans tossed across breaches to steam and spit. At Uzoso 907, Gambier Bay's struggle ends. She heels to port, water rolling across her flight deck like a dark carpet. Men jump, swim, cling to rafts. Flyers in the air mark the position, circle low, waggle wings. The only rescue possible right now is a promise to remember. Nearby, the destroyer escort Samuel B. Roberts runs at flank, the deck vibrating like a plucked wire. The destroyer escort that fought like a battleship someone will write later, but in this minute she is simply a ship with men who refuse to let arithmetic do all the thinking. Somewhere between these small defiant acts and the silent threats of torpedoes running cold and straight, the enemy's certitude bleeds out. Reports flit between pagoda bridges, torpedo track, air attack bearing green, damage to forward turret, course alteration executed. Yamato turns to avoid a phantom, a cruiser shears away, smoke ticking from its foredeck. A battleship corrects too wide and has to find the range all over again. The jeers that once traveled staff tables, baby carriers, jeep carriers, eggshells with hammers, do not fit the sound of rocket strikes pinging off armor or the sight of a slow deck flinging fighters into weather again and again. At 10:51, a different threat finds Taffy. 3. A single attacker knifes down through ragged cloud toward St. Lo. The plane becomes a spear, the spear becomes fire, and the carrier's flight deck erupts in a geyser of smoke and wreckage that climbs into the sky and stains the day. St. Lo is hit. St. Lo is... The transmission dissolves in static, then returns in pieces. A pilot in a circling Avenger feels fury rise and harden into something useful. He banks toward a battleship's shadow and reaches for the last 2 rockets he has no business still carrying. On Fanshawe Bay, Sprague's binoculars track a new line of splashes, farther now, then farther still. Plotters look up from their grease pencils, uncertain. The range is opening. The big ships are turning, unclear, whether by plan or by a long chain of minute reactions. It almost doesn't matter. The point is that the little carriers still throw wind over their decks, still scatter planes and percussive courage into the gray. The point is that the underestimated are still here. June 4, 1944, 11:10 hours, off Cape Blanco, French West Africa. The sea here is a different color, iron diluted with cobalt, and the wind smells of heat rather than rain. USS Guadalcanal CVE-60 steams with her escort screen. Shetland DE-149, Flaherty DE-135, Pillsbury DE-133, Jenks DE-6065, Pope DE-134 in a box formation that would have looked like paranoia in 1942 and looks like doctrine now. On the flight deck, TBM Avengers wear stub-mounted APS-4 radomes like strange black tumors and carry depth charges with chalked X's for luck. A radio man clamps his headset and says into the lacing wind, HFDF bears 270, strong. The baby carrier becomes a blind predator, listening. Launch the hunter-killer team. The words have a rhythm now. A wildcat heaves off the deck, no sleek interceptor but tough and enduring, a shepherd for the heavier birds. 2 Avengers lift next, their engines thrumming a reassurance that carries even to the men sweating in the catwalks. They climb into a sky that shows them everything and nothing. Somewhere in this square of ocean, a U-boat's periscope eye blinks up at a world that has learned how to look back. At 11:20, Shadelin's sonar man hears it, a pinprick of metallic echo in water that never forgets. Contact, range 1200 yards, bearing 275, moving left. The ship leans into the hunt, screws biting. The captain orders a hedgehog pattern. The forward rails cough a flock of little bombs into an arc that hangs dainty for a breath before entering the sea. Nothing. He frowns. Standby depth charges. The racks roll their black shapes astern, and seconds later, the ocean heaves. White and brown, the concussion thudding through bones. Up above, an Avenger pilot sees a smear, oil bursting in a sunlit film, and calls it. He banks into the turn that his hands now know by memory, lines up the wake of something submerged and scared, and drops a new string that walks along the stain like a hunter's dog on a scent. The wildcat shepherds at mast height, eyes raking the water for a periscope nip or rifle shots from a desperate crew. Then the sea breaks. U-505 breaches in a sick, lunging curve, water cascading from her casing, conning tower awash, hatches clanging open. On Guadalcanal's bridge, Captain Daniel Viv Gallery does the arithmetic of a very rare moment. A U-boat on the surface, damaged but not dead, crew tumbling out like seeds from a shaken pod. Board her. The order runs through the escort like a charge. Pillsbury peels off, launches a whaleboat whose bowman has no room for fear if he wants a place for skill. The boarding party carries carbines, rope, and a weird assortment of ideas. How to keep a submarine from sinking herself. How to kill a scuttling charge if they find it. How to operate machinery designed by and for their enemy. They hook, they climb, they spill onto a deck slick with diesel and sweat. Below, compartments throb with water, and someone can already feel the boat's trim going wrong in his ankles. Lieutenant J.H. Albert David leads the way down into the hatch, where the air is a hot iron taste. He finds the scuttling valves and spins them as if he has always known where they would be. He finds charges wired and ready, and yanks their fuses like bad teeth. Men pass the word up. We got her. She floats. On the surface, a black flag with a white cross of spray. U-505 lives. Avengers circle like gulls as the tow line comes across. Flaherty and Jenks stand by in case the ocean decides to collect its debts. The boarding party hauls codebooks, signal pads, and Enigma with its heart still warm from use. They stack the capture like a market day of secrets on the deck of a baby carrier that once sailed to hunt, not to steal an enemy's voice. Men grin without blinking, because if they do, someone will say this is impossible, and they will wake up. By late afternoon, Guadalcanal takes U-5005 in tow, a matched pair at the end of a sweaty, patient equation. The air wing lands in ones and twos, wings folding like prayer, oil streaks bright as bruises. Somewhere in radio, a petty officer gently sets the Enigma down as though it were a sleeping infant. In Combat Information Center, a young officer draws a neat box around grid squares that will become safer for men he will never meet. You could start this story 2 years earlier, back when the North Atlantic's middle distances were a graveyard, and air gap meant places convoys entered as gamblers rather than travelers. You could talk about USS Bogue and USS Card hunting shadow packs in 1943 with new centimetric radar, and the Mk-24 Fido homing torpedo, about nights when Lee lights turned the Black Sea into X-rayed bone, and a U-boat crew blinked into sudden day. But it is here, with a tow line humming between an escort carrier and a captured predator, that the mockery dies for good. Baby carriers have grown teeth, and they know how to bite and hold. As the sun leans toward the horizon, the task group makes a slow box around its prize. The sea strokes U-505's flanks with the gentleness of something that nearly kept her. In the carrier's wardroom, someone pours thick coffee, and sets it on a map corner, where it jitter dances with each vibration of the toe. Out on the catwalk, an Avenger crewman lights a cigarette he will not smoke and watches the tow line's catenary curve. He says to no one, "We hunted the hunters," and the phrase hangs there, right-sized for the deck beneath his boots. A pale sun lifts over a plane hammered into chalk dust. Through the slit of a command car's windscreen, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel watches his army unravel by inches. British 25-pounders thud in a rolling cadence east to west, and every detonation lifts a slow-motion curtain of grit that settles on open engine bays and hot gun shields. A dispatch rider, a gaunt Obergefreiter with a sand-clogged scarf, skids to a halt beside Rommel's map table. The man's goggles are a gray mask. "Herr Feldmarschall," he coughs, "reports from 15. Panzer, ammunition near 0. The Shermans keep coming." Rommel flicks a glance to the horizon where black specks smear the sky, Kitty Hawks and Spitfires of the Desert Air Force, then back to the map. The pencil scratches at a line already frayed, Tel El Akakir to the Ramen track. Operation Supercharge has been chewing at it since the night of November 2nd. The Ariete and Littorio divisions, pride of the Italian armored arm, are down to company strength, their M1340s abandoned in husks where British armor scissored the flank. The 88s, his old faithful Flak A-18s and 36s, have been firing flat out until the barrels glow dull orange, but even the long guns can't be everywhere at once. Fuel? Rommel asks. Columns at Fuka and Matru. Luftwaffe claims deliveries, but Malta... The signals officer leaves the sentence to die. Everyone knows, since summer, the island has clawed itself back from the brink. Convoys that once slipped through are now seized mid-sea by Force K, Wellington's Beaufighters, Swordfish, names that spell empty tanks in the western desert. Across the brittle plain, British tracer scribbles. Montgomery's 8th Army is methodical, inexorable. X-Corps pressing with Sherman and Grant squadrons. XXX Corps gnawing the northern track. Infantry edging forward under a curtain of shells. The Africa Corps net crackles with last-ditch calm. Find Panzer Dry Ur, range 900. Battery relocate, enemy air overhead. Hold to last round. Rommel listens, jaw clenched. His head aches behind the eyes, that familiar spike of exhaustion. He had only just returned from Germany, still hollow from illness, to find the offensive unfolding and his formations already bleeding out. He climbs onto the running board of the Horch and raises his binoculars. In the glass, a pair of British Shermans crest a low ridge in echelon, guns steady. Behind them, armored cars skim like water beetles. And to the north, a Churchill heaves forward, implacable. German Sig Hafsaus 251 half-tracks, dust-caped, crab backward toward a Wadas that promises cover and delivers none. An 88 barks. One Sherman staggers and halts, turret cocked at a sad angle. The second keeps coming. A battery commander's voice breaks the radio discipline. We cannot stop them all. Rommel says nothing. He has seen this before. At Beta Fam in reverse, at Ghazala's endgame. Armies are like machines, and machines are like men. When the pressure is too great, they break in the same predictable ways. Bearings overheat, teeth shear, fluids leak. You can nurse one subsystem, cannibalize another, improvise for a night and a day and a week. But at some point, the sum of losses takes command. He leans over the table. El Daba, Fuka, Mersa Matru, each a step west along a road he never wanted to walk again. Signal all corps, he says quietly. Controlled withdrawal to the Fuka line at once. Destroy what we cannot carry. All rear services move now. Re-argue nothing. An aide hesitates. The Führer's stand-fast order. Rommel's gaze snaps up, cold blue and iron. Then tell Berlin that the desert does not read orders. He pens the gist in a short, severe message for OKW. Artillery shells spank the air. The table trembles. Supply situation untenable. Armored strength negligible. Enemy armor superior in numbers and logistics. Request authorization for immediate withdrawal to shorten line and preserve fighting corps. He signs at Rommel and adds a postscript he knows will sting. To remain is to perish pointlessly. By noon, the wind is rising, pushing serpent streams of dust across the ground. In its veil, the retreat begins to take shape with a kind of broken grace. 21. Panzer Division gathers its surviving Panzer Avers. low on fuel, and edges back in 2 prongs, while a scratch battery of 88s and 50mm Paik guns trades time for kilometers. Italian Bersaglieri, red feathers gray with grime, jog alongside trucks, rifles slung. The traffic is everything and everywhere. Opel Blitz lorries, ambulances, a horse cart improbably wedged between 2 tanker trucks, a single Bf-109G screaming low overhead, as if speed alone could stitch the sky shut. Rommel rides parallel to the column, pausing to lean into a signal truck, where men with headphones coax voice from static, Tunis, Algiers, something about landings. He files the phantom rumor for later. For now, the only geography is what he can save this hour, this minute. Dusk bleeds onto the desert, and the British guns do not tire. Flares pop. A troop of Grants blinks in and out through smoke, their 75s coughing. Hold until darkness, Rommel orders, then break contact in packets. He thinks of all the maps that brought him here, of the shock of 1941, the long arcs of advance, the bracelet of names, Tobruk, Knightsbridge, Sidi Rezeg, Elighala. He feels the war turning like a tide you can see but cannot command. Night at last. The desert cools into a brittle calm. Engines cough awake. A convoy groans westward. Somewhere behind, a single 88 fires its last, the report stretched thin by distance into a sound like a door closing. November 5-7, 1942, along the coast road, Egypt to Libya. At first light, the retreat shows its real shape. Not a route, not yet, but a mosaic of columns strung along the Via Balbia, the sea to the right, desert to the left, the road a black ribbon of hope and hazard. Rommel moves among the fragments, rear guards, repair crews, field kitchens, stitching them into something that can still fight. In the lulls between air raids, he dictates messages, short and sharp as knife cuts. Keep moving. No halts on open ground. Dump heavy spares. Fuel to fighting units first. Fighters above, a driver mutters. The men glance up, reading silhouettes as a second language. Bf-109s in pairs, Machi C-202s a step back. Then the inevitable Kitty Hawks, diving sun in their eyes. The escort wavers, catches, holds. A tanker swerves off the pavement and topples, and in an instant, figures swarm to salvage. Tins, pumps, hose. A hiss of fuel siphoned like contraband. Every liter is life. At a lay-by scrubbed with tire tracks, Rommel calls his chief of staff, Oberst Fritz Bayerlein, to the car. Bayerlein's map is patched with grease. Reports say the British are entering Matruh, he says, tapping the square with a dull pencil. They are pressing with armor forward, infantry on carriers behind. Our left may fold if they cut the escarpment tracks. Then we fold first, Rommel replies, a step ahead, not behind. He frames the next delaying line on the fly. Small groups of POC-38 and a lone POC-40 here. A nest of machine guns there. A few mines seated where British drivers will choose instinct over orders. It is a language he knows intimately. The grammar of buying time with courage and position. At dusk, the radio coughs a long-awaited reply from Berlin. The signal's Corporal Pale reads it twice before handing it over. Stand fast. Hold your positions. The Führer does not authorize withdrawal. The words hang in the dim light of the Horsch like a dust cloud that won't settle. Bayerlein watches Rommel's face tighten. The old wound opens. The distance between field and headquarters, between a table in Rastenburg and a culvert west of Fuka, where a platoon waits for night to thicken. Rommel rubs his temple, then takes the pencil again. Draft my answer, he says. He speaks slowly, weighing each word against the men he can see and the men he can only imagine. The sanitet, orderly pressing a bandage that won't hold. The Bersaglier, cleaning his weapon with a handkerchief because there is no oil left. The 88 crewman counting shells on his fingers. To remain is to lose the corps entire, he dictates. I will hold where terrain grants advantage and where supply permits combat. Elsewhere, I will move as necessary to preserve fighting strength. He signs it and snaps the pencil. Outside, the sea breathes its patient rhythm, indifferent. The next day, the retreat finds its cadence. Small battles flare and burn out. A scratch company of 21. Panzer boxes a British troop into a sand bowl, knocks out 2 crusaders, and vanishes before the counterblow. A Sonderkommando detonates a depot that would have fed the enemy. The blast is so large it makes men duck a kilometer away. Italian columns, stubborn and bruised, keep their order with an almost ceremonial dignity. A German sergeant hands a water bottle to an Italian lieutenant without a word. The lieutenant drinks, returns it, touches 2 fingers to his cap brim. These are the moments a war becomes a people's memory. Rommel takes reports in a roofless stone hut near Sidi Barrani. The room smells of cordite and spilled petrol. A signalsman breaks in with a fragment from Athens, an RAF voice intercept. Algiers, Oran, Casablanca. The sketch of a rumor becomes a line of ink across a map in Rommel's head. He has known contingency plans named Gymnast and Torch existed. Now he can taste their smoke. If the British press from the east and the Americans land in the west, North Africa becomes a trap with teeth on both sides. He walks outside and stares at the sea, a strip of hammered tin. The desert air is so dry it seems to ring. You, the viewer, can almost feel it. Hot grit in your teeth, the sting where yesterday's sun burned a strip along your neck, the sick mechanical sympathy every time an engine misses. Imagine deciding for an army in minutes as fast as your thoughts. Imagine knowing that speed is the only coin you have left. Rommel returns to the map and draws long, sure strokes westward. Sollum, Bardia, Tobruk, the name still electric in his bones. We'll not try to hold the fortress, he says. Not this time. We cripple what we can and leave it. A staff captain swallows, a soldier's reverence for places, and the humiliation of abandoning them. War strips even pride for parts. By the evening of November 7th, the Africa Corps is through the wire into Libya, the frontier post ghosting behind. British patrols snap at the tail of the column, harassing, probing, sometimes bitten off by a rearguard gun that fires 4 rounds and is gone. The road is a biography written in wreckage. Burned lorries, a motorbike in a ditch with its rear wheel still turning, a pile of ration tins stamped with dates that already feel like artifacts. In the cramped light of a blackout lamp, Rommel composes another message, a colder one stripped of metaphor. Enemy likely to land in French North Africa imminently. If confirmed, recommend withdrawal to Tunisia to link with Axis bridgehead, or, if impossible, to the Mareth line. He does not write what he knows, that the desert has already delivered its verdict, that what he is conducting now is not a maneuver toward victory, but a negotiation with defeat, measured in miles and hours, not yards and minutes. Outside the lamp's circle, the desert breathes in silence. Somewhere, a harmonica plays a tune that could be German or Italian or neither. Over the water, a faint glow licks the horizon where convoys move under escort. The night feels balanced on the point of a blade. November 8, 1942, from Tobruk to El Agheila, while the West explodes. Dawn breaks with a rumor turned fact. The Luftwaffe wireless, and then every wireless confirms it. Allied landings at Casablanca, Oran, Algiers. The code name is Torch, and it is not a probe, but a continent-wide punctuation mark. In the hours that follow, Rommel's map acquires a second storm front, blooming from Morocco through Algeria toward Tunis. He can feel the strategy in his bones. From the east, 8th Army. From the west, a new Allied mass, American and British together. The trap's jaws, finally visible, already closing. He reads the first field reports like pulse checks. French commanders waver, then negotiate. In Algiers, Admiral François Darlan appears as if from a side door of history, and the guns slacken. Meanwhile, Kesselring promises an air bridge to Tunis. Ju 52s, Me 323s, everything that can carry a man or a gun. Axis troops will fly where they cannot sail. The idea has a gambler's logic, and Rommel doesn't waste breath on whether it should or shouldn't work. In war, you shovel possibilities like coal. His own reality is sand and motion. From Tobruk, he issues the order to strip and scorch. Docks mined, stores crated for what can roll in the next 12 hours, what cannot set to burn at midnight. The last convoys grind through the wire as British patrols push the perimeter and RAF bombers feel for the road with strings of flares. The desert lights itself in wan orange, fuel dumps going, and with them any notion that this is temporary. On the move again, Rommel's column slides through Ghazala's old killing ground. You can almost see in the mind's eye the ghosts of wrecked hulls half sunk in the sand, now buried, now revealed by a wind's whim. Men remark on how the dunes remember. A driver points out a track mark fossilized in a crusted pan. "That was ours," he says, meaning June. The staff car passes a neat line where field graves were once marked with wood and now are only shadows. Messages arrive in a hard, urgent rhythm. From the front, Montgomery's armor formed again, pushing. From the west, Axis elements reaching Tunis, Fallschirmjäger, a handful of panzers, engineers, seated into a perimeter against time. From Rome, supplies promised. From Berlin, hold. Rommel answers each in kind. To the front, he sends rules of engagement, almost ascetic, in their economy. Ambush only. No prolonged exchanges. Fire, relocate, fire again. To the west, he sends his intention. "If I can reach you with a core of the cores intact, I will. If not, I will take the line at Mareth and force the enemy to pay for each kilometer." A dust-choked pause at Ajdabiya becomes a council. Bayerlein lays out the calculus. "Fuel to El Agheila is marginal," he says. "From there to Tripoli, we can make it if harassed only by air. If British armor claws south and cuts, we bleed out in open ground." Rommel thinks in small circles, then in large ones. The little ones are tactical. A company here, a minefield there. The large one is the war. Russia devouring divisions. The Atlantic closing around U-boats. The skies over the Reich getting busier. He speaks without raising his voice. "We fight on the move. We pay with terrain. We keep the core alive." He looks each man in the eye so that the order is not an abstraction. "And we accept what must be accepted. North Africa, as a German theater of decision, is dying. They drive at night to save fuel and tempers. The desert becomes a tunnel your headlights invent with every second. Air raids sweep the verges. Every time the column halts, dust overruns it from behind like surf. An ambulance door hangs on one hinge, clapping until a mechanic lashes it with signal wire. A cook wagon smells of burned flour and hope. These details seem trivial. They are the war. Near El Agheila, Rommel halts to watch a rearguard battery right with fire. 4 Flak A-88s laid down as field guns, firing obliquely across the path of British scouting tanks. The guns bark at a fixed interval, a drumbeat unmoved by return fire. At the 4th shot, a Crusader flares. At the 8th, a Honey staggers and stops. And at the 12th, the battery limbers and is gone. The desert closes over the spot as if erasing a word. The next day brings a courier from Kesselring with a plan drawn like a lifeline. Hold the British long enough at El Agheila and Buerat that the Tunis bridgehead becomes a fortress. Rommel traces the line with a finger. He knows what this means. It means he becomes a hinge between two fates. If he can reach Mareth, he can blunt 1st Army and 8th Army in turn. If not, he will be ground to dust between them. That night, he drafts the message that makes his staff look at their boots. To OKW, based on current fuel and ammunition, attrition, and enemy operations east and west, I assess North Africa cannot be held to decisive German advantage. I recommend consolidation in Tunisia and evacuation of non-essential personnel and equipment from Tripolitania while rear guards conduct delaying actions. To ignore this will destroy the Africa Corps in detail. He adds a line for which there is no field manual. "I accept full responsibility for the movement of my formations necessary to preserve their life, pending your approval." It is the sentence of a commander who believes the best he can. Now offer Germany is the skill of a retreat that saves men for another shore. December 1942, January 1943, toward the Mareth line. In the weeks that follow, reality confirms the argument. The British push, pause, push again. Rommel yields, bites, yields. At Buerat, he lays a trap of wire and mine and carefully measured artillery that costs the pursuer daylight. Then he is gone. Shadows falling across empty pits where gun trails were pressed moments before. In Tripoli, cranes swing for the last time under Axis flags. The port ticks like a clock striking midnight. Driving west, the staff car crests a rise and the landscape changes. The desert is no longer the endless plain, but a country of rough wadis and prehistoric walls. Ahead is Tunisia, Mareth, and Fade. Kasserine waiting beyond the horizon like unwritten chapters. Behind, Egypt and Libya recede into an orange memory. On a cold evening outside Mareth, Rommel steps from the car and lets the night air settle on his face. He thinks perhaps of 1941's promises and of letters he cannot send. to men who didn't make it back into the column, to a nation that will read this campaign as myth or misery, depending on what it needs. He looks down at his boots scuffed white with salt and dust and knows that he has already sent Berlin the only report that matters, the truth. He breathes in, and the sea answers. Far off, the muffled crump of engineers at work folds into the steady rasp of the wind. The desert has forgiven nothing and remembered everything.